Okay, welcome back to the Mobile Mailbox Money Mastermind here today with the Family Bank. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and invite you to put your questions in the chat. I think we restricted the usage of cameras and microphones. So if you do have questions, due diligence or, really just more understanding wanted, feel free to put your questions in the chat. We got my cohorts here today, Sonny Finkel and Sean Gibson. Sonny, if you could just introduce yourself quickly for the viewers that don't know you.
I'm Sonny Finkel, and I have a couple of jobs. I do the loan compliance coordinating for the borrowers and the sales agents in the win side. So I kind of get a first look at what notes are coming in. I'm also the investor relations specialist for Mobile Mailbox Money. And I am happy to help you with any due diligence questions you might have, or giving you some further information, or sending you a collateral package on a note that we may have. You can give me a call anytime. I will put my phone number in the chat as well.
Sonny, what are some frequently asked questions that people ask when they come into our ecosystem?
They ask what type of notes we sell and what are the terms of the notes we sell. We kind of went over that last week. We sell construction notes, as well as, which are 1-year term, as well as 100% assignment notes, which are a principal and interest for 20 years. They ask about what obviously are the interest rates that we pay and how secure is their money. They ask about due diligence questions, about how to confirm the value of the note that they're borrowing on, or that they're lending on. Various different questions.
Absolutely. And we got Sean Gibson here today. Sean, if you could just introduce yourself for the viewers that don't know you.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks so much. My name is Sean Gibson. Obviously, I'm with Mobile Mailbox Money and also with Mobile Homes. Been with these guys, I would say about 3 or 4 years now, and love the company. One thing about me is I'm actually an investor, so this is right up my alley. I actually get to help our clients. That's one of my main things I do, is help our clients educate themselves on notes. I also help with Mobile Homes as far as finding right manufactured homes and selling manufactured homes. So I like to call myself kind of a jack of all trades investor, helping investors find and sell notes, and also help our company acquire manufactured homes as well.
Both Sean and Sonny have been with us for a couple years, so we appreciate them being here and their expertise that they bring to the table. I'm Alden Guajardo, President of Silvercrest Opportunity Fund, Mobile Mailbox Money, and Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Win Mobile Homes. Win Mobile Homes is the largest dealer of manufactured housing, I think, in the nation. Could be. We hold 50 lot leases right now that may be some of the highest held lot leases in the nation, institutionally recognized from CalAm Properties, ELS Communities, Kingsley Management. We've done over 350 deals. Our notes have a 2% default rate, and that's about $30 million in transactions, from originating the note, finding the asset, rehabbing it with our 15 in rehab, having 1 of 7 in sales, selling that property, and then originating the note with a licensed mortgage officer, third-party underwriting to facilitate a 2% default rate. Normally what I do in the beginning of this meeting is I send this to upwards of 100 Facebook groups. I've been sharing too many times in Facebook groups, so it's actually just limited me. Normally we'll have a couple people trickle in and out. We appreciate you being here today. This is the Family Bank, and we are streaming live, just so you are aware. And I encourage any feedback or due diligence questions. We'll have Sonny monitor the chat today. But in the beginning of these meetings, I normally give you a little house cleaning of what we've been doing. We have about 9 homes in escrow right now. I think 4 of those may have closed already. So another 5 notes actually coming to the table this month in manufactured housing. Monday, coming up here in Scottsdale, Arizona, we have the Arizona Real Estate Investors Association. We're actually, Silvercrest Opportunity Fund is the main corporate sponsor of one of the largest real estate investment associations in the nation, as RIA. Shout out to Mike Del Prete, who's actually running for city council. So important to be in rubbing shoulders with other seasoned professionals and industry magnates. And that's what we wanted to fulfill, coming to the table and actually taking that next step for more branding with Arizona Real Estate Investors Association. They have their Phoenix Real Estate Meetup, must attend, on Monday at 5 o'clock, really 5:30, at Venue 8600 in North Scottsdale. So if you're in the Arizona market, happy to have you come on out. We've got a booth, maybe give you an interview, do a lot of social media, as you can see. So would love to see you out there. We just got back from Elevate and Activate, hosted by Gerasi Law LLP, Gerasi LLP. So appreciate Anthony Gerasi for having us out at that event. They're the largest private lending law firm in the nation. So they had 2 private lending conferences in Las Vegas. Back to back, we met a group that is looking at forming actually a fund, a Reg D fund with Gerasi from our relationship that we started here at this event. So hopefully that will come to fruition. Trust and safety and security and the relationship really is how that's going to come down to the table. So hopefully we can get to the 9th hole on that relationship. I'm going to just share my screen here real quick and we'll get the meeting rolling. Also on this month, I think it's the 14th, we're actually doing a creative finance presentation to Arizona Real Estate Investors Association, and it's a bottom-up look of what it looks like of how we procure assets to ultimately cash flow in lien positioning. That's seller finance notes, specifically in niche market manufactured housing, as we manufacture paper in the alternative assets that we procure. So I'll just kind of run through this lightly, give you a little glimpse of what this class will look like. We'll have a 45-minute presentation and then open it up for questions at that time. But really, once you understand the dynamics of the market and why this makes sense, it really starts to come to more understanding for individuals of why this is an opportunity. With medium home prices being, I think here in the Valley is 400, but from what this data provides, it says 470. Even at 400,000, for an individual to qualify for a $400,000 purchase, they have to make upwards of $100,000 a year combined with little to no debt, when the average income here in the Valley is about combined $60,000. So mortgage rates just fell, as they start to reduce rates, inadvertently prices either stabilize or end up increasing, as there's a market shortage of inventory, 65,000 units actually below what should be available on the market to cure potential demand. Arizona is a great migration state, little natural disaster risk, many blessings in that accord, but also the new desirability of our market with the tax incentives and a lot of manufacturing coming to the Valley just starts to boil down to the demand for affordable housing. As we offer these homes out on the market, seller finance, we're looking for a buyer that's above a renter, one step below being able to qualify for a $400,000 purchase, which is becoming a more wide gap, as pricing and interest rates have crept up over the past 5 years. There's more of those people that are falling into this spectrum of either becoming a forever renter or actually being able to qualify for a $350,000 purchase that's not so much as turnkey as they could get in manufactured housing. They're gonna sacrifice on quality, potential area that they're looking to move to. They're gonna having to drive 45 minutes to an hour to go to work. Those are some serious challenges for these people that are fit the avatar who buy these homes on our financing. So the average new manufactured home is $167,000, which is a fraction of what a median home price would be. And that's a new product for $167,000. Most people don't know 10% of housing, almost 10% is manufactured housing in the nation. I think Arizona's the highest density of manufactured housing of all the 50 of all the states in the nation. So the national occupancy, most people think it being manufactured housing that occupancy is high, oh, those go vacant all the time. It's a 95% occupancy rate throughout the nation. To throw on additional desirability of the market should, ultimately inflate that opposed to a national percentage. The common misconception: manufactured housing always depreciates. Well, I have a statistic for you today. The cumulative appreciation from Q1 year 2000 to 2024, manufactured homes appreciated 200%. So that's a good one to keep in your back pocket, to mitigate individuals thinking that they just depreciate. That's not the case. It depends on the market. It depends on the location. A lot of variables down to even the park itself. The other biggest major player that's in manufactured housing is none other than the magnate himself, Warren Buffett, my great-great-grandfather. Not really, but he owns Berkshire Hathaway, that owns Clayton. They own Cavco. Those are two of the largest manufacturers of mobile homes, as well as Champion and 21st Mortgage and Vanderbilt. Those are both two of the larger financing entities that they extend credit in this specific asset class. He's getting paid like 3 different ways on the same house. And for an industry professional who's been a longtime winner in investment strategy, that's kind of a foresight of where the market's going. If some of the biggest players in capital investment are extending their arm into an alternative asset class, to me, that sounds like writing on the wall. And he's got a great quote that I put up here: "We have no interest in selling any of our manufactured housing business. We love the economics." So that's a great eye-opener for a lot of people. That's just a quick little taste, of what this will look like, what we deem a potential opportunity as far as our purchase price, what our budget could be, what our all-in's going to be, and how we exit, where we exit. Those are all case-specific items that we'll go over for about 45 minutes on March 15th. It's actually next Saturday at the Azria office, and talk about how we underwrite these individuals a little bit more, how we get Dodd-Frank compliance to provide a bank quality note, and ultimately get it to the finish line, which I'll switch over my screen here to the notes that we have available. So this is the deal flow market in live Mastermind Family Bank, where I bring these deals to the table. I could walk you through for an hour, 2 hours, 5 hours of how we originate these and how they're risk mitigated. This is a high-level view of back office view of what we do on a day-to-day basis. We have like 5 notes available that we'll talk right now, and I've got another, I think 3 or 4 that I didn't have time to prep. But wide door of opportunity. Today's brought to you by Silvercrest. With these positions, every position that I show you today could be absorbed into the fund. I absorbed, I think, 2 or 3 last week that I talked about on the Mastermind. But all of these are available, in other words, whether you want to buy the whole note, make the full yield, and participate in the 20-year term, or I hypothecate this possession with 1 note, 1 investor, and we cash flow together. I give you an annualized contract pledging the note in order to garnish capital investment at a double-digit yield, right? And then a year from now, we either go liquid or auto rollover, or I absorb it in the fund. I've got $1 million in positions immediately available. So from really 40,000 to $1 million, we could help you perform in 30 days. So let's get after it. Lot 192, right here in the South Mountain market. This is a 3-bed, 2-bath. We talked about this lightly last week, but I'm actually have them formally approved. They're at the closing table looking to do a deal, and we have to raise the capital in order to do it. So this 3-bed, 2-bath Lot 192 in Casa de Francisco. The unpaid balance is $95,000. It's a $1,250 payment, 95 cents in there, $1,250.95 for a 20-year term, $12,000 plus a year in passive cash flow on this rehabbed double wide manufactured home family community. We've done, I think, 5 transactions in this one park, and we have another few actually pending. So these people will end up moving when we close on this transaction. The buyer borrower is actually approved for this property. So that's a live deal currently available, $95,000. Okay, that's a 3-2 Phoenix Market Family Park. Let's keep pushing here. Lot 216. This just sold yesterday. So we received, I think it was like around a $90,000 wire transfer. My investor is actually arbitraging this note using his relationship capital and pledging the note. He's hypothecating the note to his investor. So he'll pledge it at less than what the note yields, depending on what that investor deems an opportunity. It could be 6%, could be 8%, could be 10%. You know, those are areas that individuals learn to arbitrage their relationships in the deal flow that they are exposed to. So this property sold, this investor will make about $1,200 plus a month in passive cash flow and first lien, only lien position. I do a lot of vlogs, so I actually vlogged this next one, Lot 186, Casa de Francisco, and it's a individual that we've already done a deal with. So this person listed the property with us. They bought it, they rehabbed it, and I actually did a personal walkthrough of this property and met the individual that we've already done a deal with. So similar structure. He bought it, he rehabbed it, he listed with us for a commission. As we're a licensed manufactured home dealer, we can list properties for sale. So opposed to us having to take the brunt of the rehab, the individual actually seen before you rehab the property to a turnkey specification. It's a 3-2 in the same park. Casa de Francisco happens to be in the same cul-de-sac. So this 3-2 is much more, has much more turnkey finishes, call it modern aesthetic, new cabinets, new granite he put in. You know, you can even see as I walk through this property, this buyer borrower is approved at the closing table. We have a negotiated cash price from the seller, right? And we'll ultimately facilitate a ARV estimate of what we feel the property is appraised value for at $99,000. At $99,000, this buyer borrower, not only do we create a margin on this transaction, but we also create the note. So at lot 186, Casa de Francisco, the balance, it looks like, and these are all estimates until we hit the closing table, balance is $95,000 for this property, 3-bed, 2-bath. You got the split bedroom concepts, ground set. You got a nice looking modern manufactured home and a deserving borrower, quality collateral for $1,250 a month. $95,000, $1,250 a month for a 20-year term. I could pledge that note. We could absorb it in the fund. But this was a win-win situation. This individual does not know how to navigate financing a manufactured home, but he's leveraging his skill set and hitching up with the qualified operator to be able to not only list the property, but also actually exit the home. I was talking to one of my investors actually recently, and he was like, hey, you know, why don't you just sell me a bunch of homes? I'll flip them and, you know, we can both make hay. I told him to understand that there's a problem in financing manufactured housing. There's really 2 companies in the nation that we convert with, 2, 3, and we've converted with them pretty regularly. So these homes are financeable, otherwise not commonly believed. These homes can be financed, right? But to know where to go, what benchmarks these buyer borrowers have to hit in order to even get to the table. Does that financing company work with that park? Does that single wide eliminate it actually from their criteria, or are they going to require that much more down payment in order to do that transaction? So for this guy, it was a picture perfect situation. He hitched to an individual extremely knowledgeable in personal property manufactured housing and converted a transaction where he otherwise would have had hardship. He would have had to try and figure that out all on his own. But he hooked up with the Win Mobile Homes. So that's $95,000, $1,250 a month. We just went over about $300,000 in notes right there. I've got a few more. See if I can get my screen to work with me here. Lot 72, Wintercove, just went under contract, I think this morning. So this is a unique deal that we picked up from a family-owned park with low lot rent. And this individual is buying it, actually going to put some sweat equity into the property and live into it. So it's actually in pretty decent condition. Let me just get my screen to work with me here. There we go. So this 3-2 is in the Northwest Mesa market off McKellips and the 202. It's not turnkey, but the bones are actually risk mitigated. It's a 1990s unit. Let me just double check that age real quick. But for a family park, this individual is paying $55,000, it looks like. Lot 72 is a 95, and it's a 16 by 70 or 16 by 76. That's 1,200 square feet. So that's a larger single wide manufactured home. This lot rent's actually, I think, $650. So great savings for this family that will ultimately move into this property. And it doesn't look all that bad by any means. A lot of aesthetic, that could be done to the home, but good structural integrity, AC and heat are functioning. They'll be serviced. The roof is not leaking. As a 1990s unit, this property is really a gem, just needs some sweat equity to get it to a turnkey product. This turnkey product could be $99,000. That's an after rehab value. We've done 3-4 in this same park, Wintercove, the family community in the Northwest Mesa market, and know the demand, know what kind of price will garnish with a turnkey 3-bed 2-bath in that area. That went under contract today, I think, actually, maybe an hour ago. So these are literally, as we see them come in, 9 times out of 10, as we bring them on the channel. La Montaña, we just reduced, I think, $15,000 on this property in order to get a quicker close, and we found somebody to bite. This is the South Mountain market, actually, and a 3-2. We did a full rehab on this property. Still make a great margin. Having another $15,000 on the price would have been great, but we still made, probably $30,000, $40,000 on exiting this transaction. And manufactured housing. So great looking carport, single wide, great looking paint. The siding looks good. As a 3-2 split bedrooms, that's about the sweet spot for affordability for a small family. $2,000 a month. That's really average rent comparability. So if we can match or beat average rent for the same comparable square footage, that buyer borrower will not only have challenge trying to find another place if they end up going non-performing at a 2% default rate, but they'll really, for comparability, would have to super downsize. So risk mitigated in that accord for the affordability of this transaction, but also the buyer borrower is putting, I think, $4,000 or $5,000 down plus $2,000 in closing fees. So they'll have about $6,000 to $6,500 in prepaid insurance, down payment, title fees, and taxes as they buy this property. So ample skin in the game for lot 72 Wintercove. This is actually Oh, looks like these are other photos in here.
We were talking
Or
about
actually,
La
this is-
Montaña del Sur.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm getting all confused.
That's okay. This is one that I'm processing now for the borrower, and their payment, their PITI is only $1,300 and the lot rent $800. So for $2,000 or $2,100 to have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 960 square foot home in an all-age park is really, really, that's impossible to find. Especially not something that's brand new and rehabbed to this level.
I mean, granite, new counters, new cabinets. We did an upgraded LVP. This La Montaña is a 1998 16 by 60, so about 1,000 square feet at 95,000. Let me see.
Which one is it?
La Montaña del Sur, 95,000, lot 129.
It's 99.5. That's 3,000 down. 96.5 is the note. That's the one I was just telling you.
Yeah, and what's the payment?
The PITI is $1,300.
$1,300 a month. So at 96,000, that's $1,300 a month. We just showed you upwards of $5,000 a month in passive cash flowing positions. I got a little disoriented there because my screen's so big on this TV. But all areas of opportunity. You know, most people go to our website and search for the notes that we have available. We'll be updating this site. I think on Friday it'll actually go live. Some of our links aren't working, but we still have, our functioning videos and such. But I encourage you to go sign up if you haven't at mobilemailboxmoney.com. If you have an accredited investor on the line, Silvercrest Opportunity Fund, under our credit strategies tab, will show you a little bit more of a high level what we're trying to accomplish. A $10 million portfolio to 50 would be fantastic for us, risk mitigated at 10% return for a 1-year term paid monthly, 12% return for a 3-year term paid quarterly, or a potential for a higher rate of return for a 5-year lockup. This is an evergreen fund, which is interesting because most funds you have to raise, say, $5 million to go buy a pool of notes. We originate 5 to 7 notes a month, actually. So at a minimum of $50,000, we could absorb 50 and deploy 50 in as little as 30,000 and up to $1 million. That's a potential fund of funds structure. If you know another hedge fund manager, or you're trying to start a fund or whatever it may be, all potential that we would like to discuss at any given time. In this business, in order to get farther up to that next plateau, you got to partner up with other seasoned professionals to get the deals done. At the end of the day, all these deals are done with Wynn Mobile Homes. We're the largest D8 manufactured home dealer in Arizona and might be the largest lot lease holder in the nation outside of mobile home parks that own the parks. So independently owned lot leases, a lot of people shy away from manufactured housing just because the asset class, we're head deep here and know the market, know the other industry professionals that operate, feel risk mitigated in that accord. Does anyone have any questions? Did we have any questions in the chat while I figure out my screen here?
There's a few, but I'm answering them.
Let's talk about them real quick. What were some questions?
It's just Catherine has a question about possibly putting together a group deal, and I just have responded that we are skilled at creating creative investment opportunities. We just would like to hear, what your goals are and match those up with our resources and make a deal.
I think a lot of people are taught to try and find notes online and get the biggest discount that you can in order to facilitate a transaction. And really, to understand, we've sold 100% of our notes at par And how do we do that? How do we make a note that's risk mitigated, underwritten in order to garnish a par transaction? Well, most people aren't doing this as a business at the end of the day. They're doing onesie twosies. They may do a few at a time, throughout the year. We're doing about 7 a month with double underwriting. So every deal that we facilitate actually went through 2 rounds of underwriting. The first round is through the park, which in comparison to a residential real estate note, it's not going to go through this stringent of a underwriting to facilitate the transaction. Let me explain. So with the community, they require a 600 plus credit score or ITIN number or close, no past criminal, which is case specific to manufactured housing, no open bankruptcies, no past evictions, and verifiable income. That's the first step of underwriting. And that's actually a third party that we have no control over whatsoever. As they get through that first processes, they go through a secondary underwriting for the financing. So we don't just sit down at a table and sign a napkin, to get the transaction done. We send them through another round, third party underwriting for ability to repay, ATR or Dodd-Frank compliance. They put their finances under a microscope, what their debt to income ratios are, are they have an open bankruptcy? What's their credit like? Do they have 2 years of tax returns, or do they have ample bank statements at 60% of what the gross is for that annual year? Those are all benchmarks that they have to hit before we even deem it a potential opportunity. So by that time, they're coming to the table, went through 2 rounds of underwriting, and we make that formal ready decision of, okay, is this profitable? Is this risk mitigated? Does the buyer have skin in the game? And if this does go non-performing, is there potential for capital preservation, or at least at minimum, a mitigation of loss of principal? There is risk in investment at the end of the day, but what are we doing up front in order to navigate that, knowing that this could potentially go non-performing? How do we navigate that? What do we require in order to not get burned? If you do enough transactions at the end of the day, some are bound to go non-performing. But at a 2% default rate, that really starts to open the eyes, I think, for individuals of why manufactured housing in comparison to a real estate note. A real estate note, they could have an eviction, they could have a criminal background. Those are really other steps that possibly make this note a little bit higher in investment grade for a capital investor. So
can I add one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
We are also requiring the borrowers to pay an entire year of taxes and insurance up front. So when we turn over the note to the investor, we're giving them a transaction that is well on its way to being secure for at least a year, on top of, the third party underwriter is looking for a 45% debt to income ratio. And then we're providing the insurance and taxes to be completed as well.
So these properties are insured, right?
Yes, they are.
The investor actually gets there are the lender on the insurance policy, required insurance, required to pay taxes, required to pay the note. Sonny, what happens if a note does go non-performing?
Well, we have boots on the ground in the communities where we have these properties. So as soon as we find out that somebody's behind, we're going to attempt to help the investor get in touch with the borrowers. We're going to go knock on the door if we have to. We've dealt with a lot of different situations of just life that happens. People get behind on a payment or two for one reason or the other. We've actually given part-time jobs to some of our borrowers to work on our crews, and we've worked out loan modification situations where we've been able to put a payment or two on the back end of the note to get them caught up if they were, sick or injured and couldn't work. Or we are really flexible about doing whatever we can do to help people stay on track.
So we're not just the lender, in other words. We didn't just find out about a loan that needed to be done. We bought the house, we rehabbed it, we resold it on financing, got everybody approved, Dodd-Frank compliant, had a mortgage officer sign off on the loan, raised the capital for the position, and even in some cases managed that note depending on how we originated the financing. So if an investor buys a whole note and they own that within their portfolio, they take it out of mine, out of Win Mobile Homes or Silvercrest, they own for the full yield, for the full term. What happens, Sonny, if that note goes non-performing?
At our cost, we provide the service to the investor through our attorney to repossess the property and resell it.
And in a hypothecation, what's the difference?
There is not it's not like a regular residential home. There's not a foreclosure needed. Manufactured housing is considered chattel or personal property. So it can be repossessed in 30 to 40 days as opposed to a foreclosure that could take 6, 8, 10 months to 2 years.
So you keyed in on the difference between residential and personal property. That is true. Personal property is a repossession and an eviction process. Within 40 days of non-payment, that buyer borrower is out of the house. We have title and probably rekeyed the doors at that time and do a move in and out special on that transaction at cost to the investor that may own that whole note in their portfolio. If a hypothecated position that we sell that note, pledging it in order to garnish capital investment at a negotiated interest rate for a 1-year term at no cost to the investor, no capital call, no loss in monthly payments, no delay. We pledge that note. I take a loan against my position, and at no cost, if that note goes non-performing, I keep making payments, and I go out and repossess the property, remarket it for sale, and hopefully make additional profit or mitigate loss. And if we do end up getting below a loan, below the first position, we're obligated to pay that position in order to cure that transaction because we took a loan against the asset. Whereas in third comparison, you had a whole note, I have hypothecated note for a 1-year term at a double-digit interest rate, one note, one investor, or the third is in the fund. The fund allows bank quality stability. It's one step further from putting your money in a CD at the bank. And why is that so stable? Well, it's across multiple assets. These positions that I absorb in my fund, we have about 25 positions currently performing. They're yielding 14 and 15%, various rates, but above market average. And I guarantee those positions, and they're guaranteed by the fund. So the success of the fund guarantees your payments and potential liquidity upon the expiration of your contract. Why is it the same stability and even better than money market account, high yield savings, or just having your money in a CD? Well, you're making 10% for a 1-year term. That CD, could be 6 months to a year for 4 or 5%. You're doubling your return in a similar housing asset class. Banks originate mortgages, in order to facilitate more stability within their structure. We're doing the same thing, but I'm giving you a lion's share of the portion of interest in order for velocity, but also they're built to a standard that I feel comfortable in order to do so. Not many people are originating this quality of a note in the most highest need asset class in the nation, which is affordable housing, and emulating a Warren Buffett investment strategy. So we're going to keep this short and sweet today. I'm looking for capital investment. At the end of the day, we could never use enough capital. We have one last question here. Go ahead and type it away, Miss Catherine. It's an interesting time to be alive. It's a new day and age in manufactured housing. The market cannot facilitate a average income earning individual to own a home anymore. Are they just to go to rent for the rest of their life at the end of the day? Where's the give? Where's the true solution for this housing crisis? So I've got a question in the chat. What if we move forward with purchasing the note model? Could we structure it with the 50% DP and the remaining 50% paid the following month? Also, would it be possible to have the payment schedule set on yearly or an annual basis? So depending on, I'm not sure, structure it with a 50% DP. May have to just provide some further clarity with that specifically, but also for a once a year distribution, that's more of like a hypothecated model where we go on a deferred interest basis. We could do that annually. That could be either through one note, one investor, and we do that 20 times, or you lend to my entity on the assets that we have under construction. But those would be various maturity dates. It just kind of depends on what capital is available, what works at the end of the day, and how we structure that deal creatively in order to have a win-win situation.
Alden, wouldn't this also work well with the fund if they wanted to put in their money in increments like the fund requires, 50,000 at a time, or however that's structured?
Say that again, Sonny. Sorry.
Is it a good opportunity for them to invest in the fund where they can just put in $50,000 increments at a time and their money is spread out over whatever notes are invested into the fund? So
that depends. If someone's non-accredited or they're trying to portfolioize this capital with a relationship, that may not fit because it's not their personal investment or they don't have a fund-to-fund structure. So a non-accredited investor, most people don't know, you can sell a note to a non-accredited investor. One note, one investor, and we cash flow, you cash flow either owning that note or I have one leverage against my position, and we do that 10 times. Someone could do that non-accredited, whereas in the fund, you'd have to fit accreditation in order to invest your capital or have another fund structure, something of that nature. So, great questions. So we haven't gotten to a situation, where we really need to borrow at half of what the note is originated at. That would be kind of a net negative on our rehab. 9 times out of 10, we have 60% cost on the sales price into the rehab. If we net 30% on every transaction, that kind of starts to get some further understanding. But that inhibits us from having the capital we need in order to provide further deal flow at the end of the day. For us, we want to do more deals. These notes are risk mitigated in itself and the biggest need in the nation. I would understand more if these were in Alabama or, Virginia or Detroit, something of that nature. But really, to open the eyes to the grade of investment on these notes and the underwriting it's facilitated by, the desirability of the market, the institutional recognition of our processes, and how we help other mobile home park owners in the area get their parks to pro forma in order to lift the quality additionally throughout our timelines. Once you start to understand that further, I think it starts to make sense. And how to translate that, to the people that you may be raising capital to is a challenge at any given time. Oh, mobile homes depreciate. That's a terrible asset class. That's worth 50% on the dollar. That's an outdated opinion at the end of the day. With the new need for affordable housing, there are little to no other solutions. Now institutions are buying these parks for a 50-year investment strategy, lifting the quality, requiring more on credit criteria, requiring more for upstanding citizenship. They can't just be a felon, and be able to buy in these parks. There's a new day and age for manufactured housing. I attributed it the past couple of years. This is not your grandma's manufactured home anymore. People see the carpet in the bathrooms and stuff like that. this is manufactured housing. These are often in times comparable to quality of stick-built homes, and sometimes even higher. They're rolled through a factory. They have their processes. You may be dealing with a different general contractor with a single-family property at the end of the day, and 9 times out of 10, it's a Warren Buffett product. It's a Clayton, Cavco, Champion. Those are literally the 3 biggest. So we come across
And
those
resort
frequently.
style amenities in the communities. Most standard subdivisions don't have those.
Condominium style living neighborhood environment, not in the boonies, not in deep in Atlanta, not, in a non-investor friendly market. Those are all really satisfactory check boxes that could outweigh, I think, some potential pushback that people receive when they're going out and pitching this strategy. Any other questions anyone has? I think I went through more today than I've gone through in a while. I encourage you to come attend ASRIAM on Monday. That's at 5:30, venue 8600, and March 15th at 16th Street and Camelback in North Phoenix at the Arizona Real Estate Investors Association meetup. We had a quick comment in here. All right, no problem. We may be looking something into the $2 to $5 million range, since we're not considering just one note, looking to purchase like more than one. Happy to do it. There's a real opportunity here. I'm not just some streamer. I'm not just some hedge fund manager. We've created a true ecosystem in the likeness of Warren Buffett, not seen, I think, anywhere in the nation. Which 5 of the notes are currently under contract? I sold lot 132, 134, 125,
123.
123.
129 is going to close this week.
So, people, this I want to do $1 million a month, and hopefully we can all collectively get there at the end of the day. That would be a $12 million business. And at the end of the day, you can't do it by yourself. So we appreciate you being here today. Normally, I think Sunny already put her information in the chat. If Sean's still here, I'll have him do that as well. But we appreciate you being here today. This is every Thursday, 1 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. Free gems, free value, free look into the back office of what we do on a day-to-day basis, and the want for transparency, trust, and really to do more business. So we'll wrap it there. Don't hesitate to reach out. I could use $1 million today. Y'all have a great one. That's how we do it. Silvercrest Opportunity Fund, Mobile Mailbox Money, and Win Mobile Homes. Got a live viewer here still. Appreciate you being here today. Reach out, 602-888-CASH, Win Mobile Homes, Mobile Mailbox Money. Y'all have a great one.
Yeah. Oh,